Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Meeting Protocol Monthly Podcast, where we chat with some of the coolest people in the industry and bring you relevant and useful information about what is happening in the world of meeting planning. I am Dora Figueredo, the head of events and education at Meeting Protocol, coming to you, as always, from my living room in New Jersey. I am so excited about our guest today because sometimes you come across people in your life who have such great vibes and synergy that they give you so much energy whenever you speak to them. And that is exactly how I feel about today's extraordinary guest, Heidi Jacobson. Truly, the very first time I spoke to her, I left that call in such a high that lasted the rest of my day. If you listen to other event industry podcasts, you probably have caught her guest starring in lots of them. She is very popular in the industry, and she was in Events Demystified just a few months ago. So Heidi has had a very successful career as a sales manager, which is where many event professionals start. And she's now the VP of Business Development at Level 5 Events by the Expo Group, which is a growth-focused and innovative events agency. On this podcast, we have spoken with a lot of traditional event planners and event agency owners. So I am really excited to be able to bring the perspective of an expert who works in a different facet of the industry. So Heidi, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tell us where you're joining from and the quick background of what got you into the industry.
Okay, first of all, I'm just not going to say anything because I'll blow anything that you just said because that was very kind. So we're just going to sit here and smile at each other. Um, Actually, I'm coming from Las Vegas. It wasn't so much I went to Vegas to get into the industry. I ran from California, which became ridiculously costly, to a place that we could afford and possibly put a dollar away into our pockets so that we could retire one day. I think since this is broadcast all over, we all know what the cost of living is from us as an individual standpoint, let alone what it costs to do an event. So what got me into the industry? That's an interesting question. Um, as Dora had mentioned, I spent 10 years in the garbage company. I worked for a company called BFI, which was Browning Ferris Industries, the largest garbage company. And it's funny because I was with Nordstrom for many years. I opened up the San Francisco stores. I was there at the height of the Nordstrom. And I decided that if I ever wanted to get married, I'd have to leave retail because retail was ridiculous. It's holidays and long hours and da 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 da. So I thought I made the transition, and it was funny because I was just about to get married. My dad and my mom thought it was the coolest thing that their daughter worked for the garbage company. My in-laws were absolutely appalled to say their daughter worked for the garbage company. But I'll tell you, it was one of the best experiences of my life. 10 years, incredibly professional. Like any industry, it's the product is just a byproduct of what it is. It's still the skill sets and the integrity of the company that is really what you want to look for, not always what the product is. But I loved garbage. I loved being part of everything. And I ended up actually in the bio waste division, which is exactly what you would think, the blood and guts. And great stories. We can have those conversations anytime. Call me. I still love those. And so then again, after 10 years, I was fully vested. We came to Vegas, and it just so happened a headhunter had found me, and I get back into events. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's a dang good thing I'm married because I did the same thing I did in retail. I went back to crazy hours, holidays, no Monday through Friday. And I thought, did I not learn a lesson? So there's my history.
It's true. Yeah, events. I have a really massive event with a pretty big delegation in 3 countries in East Asia starting next week. And my poor husband, I have not seen him truly for more than a few minutes at a time in almost a month. How much
Yes.
work this is. So yeah, events. It looks it is fun, but it's like fun and interesting from the outside. But really, it's mostly like it's just a lot of long hours.
Long hours. And you have to be a little twisted.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be a little twisted in your mind because there's uh, a lot of, for lack of a better, a lot of, not a lot of satisfaction for the hours that you put in. So
Right.
never do the math, okay? Never do the math, all
Yeah.
right? Because you'd be like, what the heck am I doing? And more importantly, why am I doing this? I always think to myself that we in the industry are like roller coaster junkies.
Yeah.
It's just you love the up, you love the down. The highs are high, the lows are low, and that you hope that as soon as you finish one, that the next one at least is more than a day in between so you could breathe. But you're very calm considering what you have coming up next week. So I got to applaud you for going, okay, I'm going to take a moment and zen this one out.
Thank you. I guess that's how you describe an event planner, somebody who looks real zen on the outside, but I've got a real bad stomach ache right now.
Oh, I bet. I bet. And you know what? You're a lot younger than me, but there's a word that I'm going to teach you now. It's called hair coloring. It will be your
I do.
best friend. No,
I do.
I'm
Oh my
telling
goodness.
you.
For years, my hair was actually parted on the other side. For those listening on Spotify, my hair used to be parted on the left side. And one day, I mean, it was like over the course of a few months, multiple people made comments about how many grays I was getting. And I started parting it on the other side because I had fewer grays there. And now it's mostly gray. So I also color my hair now.
Yeah. I always go an event, a salon, an event, the salon, an event, the salon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next time you guys plan your events and you're doing per diems and stuff, I really think we should be allowed to put in hair coloring. I,
Yeah.
I think it should be a perk of the trade.
Right. At least a massage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but then you'd have to make time for that. You can't do a hair and massage because again, we're neurotic people. So we're always looking for our next gig.
That's very true. That's very true. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get into our questions.
Yes,
So
please.
you spent a decade, just about a decade at Freeman, which is a company that trade show planners know very well, before moving into Encore. So tell us about what prompted you to move from waste management that you'd been working for and what you did in those roles and sort of how your skill set transitioned. And by the way, even though like I wasn't born in New Jersey, but I was mostly raised here, and The Sopranos was at the height when I was in my 20s. I actually never watched The Sopranos until now. I started watching it a few months ago. And hearing you say that you were in garbage, I keep thinking like, oh, is she actually in the mob? Is she Tony Soprano in waste management? Quote.
Is there's some truth to that. It depends on what city you're in. But again, we can have this conversation offline at any time. But when I came to Vegas, I actually looked at the garbage company here because I love the industry and realized that this was still very old school, still very Tony Soprano here in Vegas in the 2000s. And I thought, okay, we'll go into something else. So again, great topic. We can have lots of conversations. So when I got hired, I again, a lot of you have been in the industry. You'll realize I was hired into AVW Telev, which was a Freeman company, but we went through by AVW Telev. So then you had AVW Telev and Freeman, and it was very chaotic for a lot of people. So finally, AVW Telev became Freeman. Okay. So I was hired in as the assistant director of sales. Then I went through and became director of sales. Then I became national sales director. So it just gives you a sense of my productivity throughout the company. But I'll tell you what, when you have extreme client customer service focus, will carry you in any industry that you're in because it really is all about the client. It's all about the client and it's all about the product.
Yeah.
Okay. And third of all, you have to believe in the product. Never, ever take on any sense of responsibility for a product you don't believe in or an event you don't believe in. Because I'll tell you what, it will show, it will come across. You have to be wholeheartedly invested in it because it's all about the outcome. And especially in our industry and even the garbage industry, I never had a tangible product. It was a service. So I've somehow, even in retail, even though we had a product, it was still a service-oriented industry, right? So you have to always just have that focus. I'm not a believer that the customer is always right because they're not. Okay. It's just fine lining that discrepancy between unrealistic asks and the reality of what can actually be, um, what desire can be fulfilled. Okay. And that goes back to, again, integrity, believing in your product, and having those open conversations. I mean, being afraid to have those real conversations will not serve you well. They won't serve the client well. They won't serve you well. All right. So
Yeah.
it goes back to clients not always right. So Freeman, when I joined, I loved Freeman. Freeman, the Freeman family, Mr. Freeman, Carrie Freeman, really wonderful people. They still are an employee owned company. The Freeman family for many, many years has always said that they would never go public, that they wanted to retain the intimacy of it. I believe that they've done a good job of doing that. Like anything else, it's a business and it's a business that needs to make money. So they've changed a lot of the structure. Some of the things that um, was committed to are no longer in existence. That doesn't make them a bad company. It just makes that the dynamics have changed. So when the opportunity to, so then I was the national sales director. My job was to oversee the exhibit floors. So my team, we ran the big booths. When I say we ran the big booths, we sold the big booths. We did all what I call all the glitz and glamour component. We did all the lighting and the sound and all the stuff that makes it sparkle. Then my Freeman counterparts did the booth build, which I always thought was the boring part because without the icing on the cake, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So with that, Encore was a Freeman company. So I knew I could learn production and not have to give anything up. So I was able to retain my PTO. I was able to retain my 401, my profit sharing, blah, blah, blah. So I transitioned, and that's when I went over to Encore Production. And let me make a quick discrepancy between production and events. Encore events are your in-house people that are going to nickel and dime the holy heck out of you. We can talk about that later. Production are the people that come in and again do what I consider the glamour component of your event. I'll take a breath and turn it back over to you if you've got any questions about how I went from one to the other.
Yeah, I actually really love, thank you so much for that distinction. And the managing expectations with the customers. I think that's a really core piece of event planning. I think a lot of people, when they start out in event planning, don't they don't have the skills yet to have those difficult conversations. And so sometimes they'll say yes to people, to their clients, even though something is not possible. And then that leads to a lot of problems in the end. And when you have more experience, you're able to say, if you can't directly say no, you can say, well, I think this would work better because, and it takes a long time to get that skill, but really that, how to tell your customer that they're not right by making them feel like your idea was their idea and therefore that new idea is right. Like that is a really important skill.
You know what, Dora? And learn it fast. Learn it fast. I mean, because if not, you are setting yourself up and them up to nothing but disappointment. You have to agree upon expectations for both of you. And you've got to do that early in, even when you're forging the partnership. Like for instance, when Dora and I spoke early on, I was telling her and to all of you, you never hear me say, well, to be honest, to be candid, to be transparent, because that's just the only way I'm going to have the conversation with you. You're
Yeah.
hiring me, you're speaking with me, you contacted me because I paid my dues. And so you're expecting that I'm going to tell you the way it is. And again, it might not always align with what you want, but the sooner we learn about disconnects, the better off we're both going to be. Because if not, you really are just setting each other up to fail. And there's no good that's going to come out of that. And you can apologize a million times, but why apologize when you can just, again, course correct early on and level set at the very beginning? And for anybody who's new, I don't care if you're new to the industry, I don't care if you're new, learn to stand behind what you know to be the truth.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And create the nerve, the backbone, the courage to let the client know, I want to be the best that you can be. I want to provide you what your vision is. But in order for us to do that, we got to get granular and we got to get honest from the onset. And that will just go so far, especially if you're in a competitive situation. They're going to appreciate that much more, and they'll actually do business with you because they don't know what again, I'm trying to be all PC here. They don't know what they don't know what they're getting from someone else if they don't feel that they're getting a straight story.
Right.
They're
Yes.
going to feel that it's a bait and switch, and it usually is. So I just had a client yesterday, and it's a term I said, I'm going to steal this from you. He said a budget creep. Don't give me a budget creep, Heidi. And I thought, oh, I'm going to steal that. And I said, have you not learned any? I literally said, have you not learned anything from all of our conversations? Not who I am. If that's anything that you've had historically and prior, I'm going to apologize on behalf of all of us. But you should never be in a position with that. And again, you can avoid those budget creeps by having those straight, honest conversations at the onset.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, I think this is a perfect seg for my next question, which is, as a sales director, you have to develop a deep understanding of what your clients need. So I'd love to hear about the biggest evolutions that you've seen over your career in terms of client and industry needs. And, I feel like the pandemic was kind of like a blip, a giant blip, but a blip on our radar. And now we're operating in the same way that we did pre-pandemic. So how are you seeing client needs right now?
Yeah. I would say yes and no. Are we operating? Okay. I think there's a couple distinctions. Budgets before the pandemic were set at XYZ. Budgets after the pandemic are set at that same XYZ, yet everything has gone up.
Oh my
So that's absolutely unrealistic. And I think we're all dealing with that. It's like, I can't deliver that same show at that same price point. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm at $5 now for gas. I'm sure in New Jersey, and I guarantee on the West Coast, you're up to $6 and $7. So how can I truck at the same point? My labor has gone up. A lot of people have left the industry. Goods and services have gone up. And so it's like, no, Mr. Customer, I'm not charging you more. I'm charging you the current market rate. The problem is you haven't accepted that our industry costs have gone up, but yet you're willing to pay $6 for milk and $6 for eggs. Why would you not think this would have changed?
Right.
So that's the biggest evolution that I'm having right now is I can't do what I did before and getting past the perceived concept that I'm charging more. I'm really probably getting less profitability than I did before because in order for me to be competitive, I have to. The other thing I'm finding is that a lot of people are just doing these steep discounts even today to make up for all the money that they lost during the pandemic. Okay.
Interesting.
So the competition has really driven the market rate ridiculously low. So I find I can't compete again for those reasons. The other thing, bringing up Encore Events, which is, as you all know, it's a PSAV company carrying the Encore name. In the midst of the pandemic, I left Encore, whom I love, who I was making the most money I'd ever done in my career. I was traveling all over. I didn't know what time zone I was in. I didn't know what state I was in, but I was going to milk it for all it's worth. Pandemic hits, like everybody else, we lose everything. I actually left Encore during that time because I refused to work for PSAV because I didn't believe in the brand and I don't believe in the product.
Wow,
Okay, so
good for you.
it goes back to personal integrity, right? I said to my husband, listen, dude, I'm going to go work at Albertsons and stock shelves because at least I can live with myself. Because one thing we have to remember in meeting planning, we are our own brand. Your
Mm,
integrity and your brand name, that's going to carry you. It's not Dora from XYZ. It's not Heidi from XYZ because meeting planners move around. All right. And clients, decision makers move around. They're going to stay with whom they like, not for whom you always work for.
that's true.
Okay, so again, my brand, my Heidi Jacobson brand, I did not want compromised by PSAV. And then when they go and carry the Encore name, I thought, oh my God, who do you think you're kidding? That's like lipstick on the pig.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, Encore Events, i.e., PSAV, is in like 90% of the hotels. Okay, so you have to remember PSAV bought Encore, I think it was a year before the pandemic. I
Mhm,
have no idea how many millions or billions or zeros were attached to that.
mhm.
Pandemic hits, millions and billions of dollars are lost. So
Yeah.
now, after the pandemic, they are charging everybody for everything that they can. All those exclusivities that have always been there, they're now reenacting them. They're charging premiums, they're charging penalties. So, to answer your question, it is definitely financially very different after the pandemic than it was before.
Yeah.
So, that's just that's the most that I'm seeing. The mentality, little different. We can get into that, but there is no apples to apples. It is completely different world afterwards, and it's very difficult for us in the industry to try to educate these people that it's not what it was, which goes back to having those hard conversations early on.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm going to go back to your point about following like the person you like and not necessarily the company. And I'm going to tie it back to your salon experience from the beginning of this podcast because you have curly hair, your hair is straight right now, but you have curly hair. I have curly hair. Anybody who's got curly hair knows that it is impossible to find a really great stylist, a person who
Yeah.
really knows how to cut curly hair. And I had a hairstylist once who cut my hair here in New Jersey. She got married, moved to Philly. I went to Philly for years to get my hair cut because I wouldn't trust anyone else with my hair for a really long time. And I feel like it's a perfect analogy for something like this. When you work really well with a person who's putting on events that this is when you're putting on somebody's event, that is their brand. You are giving their brand a face and a physical form in the world. And it is really important to maintain that relationship. So if they trust you, no matter whether you're with company A or company B, they're more likely to continue with you. So that integrity is deeply important. I completely agree.
Absolutely. Establish your brand, establish yourself, establish who you are, and come forth with that. It's okay to tell a client, this is who I am. I might not be the personality type that you want. You might want a yes man. I respect that. But if you're wanting somebody who's going to be bringing best practice, the best ideas, the best thoughts, and the realistic budget, then I'm your girl. And I literally have that conversation. It's okay to be honest. Um, we're in a world right now where um, honesty is very difficult to find. Again, I go back to my comment earlier where people, well, to be transparent, well, to be honest. So I'm thinking, so all those other times you don't preface that, you're lying to me. I mean, everything is so deceitful right now that it's okay to actually tell somebody this is who I am. And again, if I'm not what you're looking for, I'm okay. I just want you to have the best event and I want you to align with the person whose personality and skill set are going to work for you. Because it's no different than think about it. When you're dating somebody, right? You're looking at, do you align? Do you have the same values? Do that, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Well, sales is the same thing. You're dating your customers as much as they're dating you. And sometimes you just want to cut bait and get out. I mean, I know we all want to make money. I get it. Okay. I mean, I support my family as well, but man, if it's bad, it's going to cost you more than it's going to be worth.
Totally. Yeah. One of my family members, he runs his own business, and he had a customer that just was really demanding, whatever, really strained relationship. And he got to a point where he was like, this customer's money is not worth it to me. And he cut that customer loose. He said, sorry, I can't continue doing business with you. So the relationship is definitely a two-way street.
Yeah, it is. And it, believing in the product, believing in your culture is you you cannot ever get past that. The almighty dollar, it, it's the goal, but it's not the end result that you're looking for. You're looking for some integrity and some sanity and maybe a little bit of a profit margin when you come out. But to kill yourself and not get anything out of it, listen, a customer like that, you're not going to get a referral from because you're probably never going to please them.
That's right.
So
That's
tell
true.
me what the gain was. Like we said, this is all word of mouth. Our industry is all word of mouth. Okay, so again, you want to align with people who are going to give you those referrals, those people who are going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I had a great experience with Dora. Hey, I had a great experience with Heidi. You might want to give them a call, see if it's something that works for you. It's all who you know. And so again, don't burn bridges, but don't accept bridges that are going to crumble everything you've worked hard for. We all know one bad one will offset every good one.
Right, right, right. Well, this is, I think, a good way to go into my next question, because how do I want to say this? Everything we've already mentioned a few times now, that like this is a really difficult industry to work in, right? There's a lot of stress. Being client facing is really difficult. I mean, when I think about pure sales people in sales positions such as yourself, like I can't imagine anything harder because
Yeah.
it is really, really difficult. And so when we first spoke a few months ago, you mentioned that you were in a phase of your life where you're thinking about what's next, but not in terms of continuing to move up the career ladder. And this ties in really well with what you said during the pandemic. You'd rather go stock shelves at the grocery store, keep your integrity. And, now that I'm in my 40s, I'm also thinking like, okay, I spent my 20s and 30s working myself to the bone. Not that I'm not enjoying life. I've been very fortunate. I'm middle class, like very, very comfortable. But also like I would like my weekends back at some point, And
Yeah.
so like, I don't really feel strongly compelled to continue moving up the ladder. I think that my level of responsibility right now is about the max I want in order to really live my life outside of work to the fullest. So anyway, I want to ask you, after all these years of the grind for you, what is it like to think about closing the hustle and grind chapter of your life and career, but still continue to work? Because obviously you still have bills to pay, but just not putting work first anymore.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really want to applaud you that you figured that out in your 40s.
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm serious. Um, you know, if we hadn't learned anything about COVID, it's how quickly life changes. Or as you get older, we start losing people in our lives and blah, blah, blah. You know, I can't tell you, and I wish I were kidding. I can't tell you how many vacations I've gone on with my family or been at, and I can't tell you I was even there. I have pictures and I have no memory of that because I probably had my head in my laptop, or I had my head in my phone, or I had my head in the event that was coming up, or are we loading in on time? Did the labor show up? And I look at all that time and money and I'm thinking, holy heck, what do I have to show for that? Okay, nice life, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but did I live it? No, I passed through my own life. And I'm being serious. I mean, my husband, I've been married 33 years, and he goes, that's what we're going to write on your home in your tombstone. Heidi was great as she passed through her life, right? And so I'm just at a stage, I mean,
Yeah.
where, and I have no problem saying I'm going to be 61 in December, which to
Look,
me is
so
just,
great for 61, by the way. I would
oh
never
my God,
have
just
guessed.
mind boggling, right? 61, what the hell, right? Or I should say when. Well, maybe if I was paying attention to my life, I would know, right?
Yeah.
But find that happy medium. I mean, really invest in yourself and your family and everything that's important. Because Dora, you mentioned your husband takes the brunt. Listen, my husband took the brunt, my kid took the brunt, and you know, Keith, my husband, he would say, "You're not even listening to me." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I am." Clearly wasn't.
Right.
Clearly wasn't.
Yes.
For some customer, for some load in, for some trivial thing, I was totally disrespecting my family because that was just the most important thing. So it is the important thing, no question, but you've got to find balance
Yeah.
because this industry, what we do, it will suck you dry. And
Yes.
then you become this person of lackluster, you lose your zest for life, you're just always exhausted. When you're not working, you just want to sleep. And then, so I'm here to warn you people, don't do that. Try to find that balance. I mean, control your life as much as you control your clients' expectations of you. Okay. So I'm at a stage right now where 61, I could literally retire in a year and 3 months, right? That and you know, I still want to give back to the industry. I want to be a source of support for the industry. I want to be able to mentor people, not because I know what the heck I'm doing, not because I know more than anyone else. I'm just going to tell y'all, don't do what I did. If I'm just the face of learn from me, great. But I want to give back and do it on my terms. I want to work with people I like. Again, going back to work with people you not like, not always to chase the money. I've really never been in a position not to chase the money, being the sole supporter of the family. I want to be in that position. So I'm now looking to just kind of enjoy where I'm at, do the best I can at where I'm at, um, keep my job. I still work hard, but the results aren't always showing because of all those things that we've said in terms of costs. And just be that. Now, my goal, and just in case you're wondering, what do I want to do? What do I do when I grow up? Is my husband's a computer guru, right? So that's what he does. If you ask my boss, I don't dot T's. I mean, I don't dot I's and cross T's. I'm terrible. I'm your visionary. I'm thinking in rainbows and in colors and what's that look like? What's that sound going to look like? What's that experience going to feel like? How is that attendee going to leave? Have we achieved the goal? So I'm that visionary. So you take his skills and what I do, and we want to, there's a big senior community here in Las Vegas, and I have a son with special needs. So there's a special needs community. We want to be professional negotiators for those people who are too afraid to negotiate. They just pay. They don't think about it, whether it's their phone bill or their car or their insurance. And I look at my mom, like she pays way more on Sirius than I pay. Why? Because I pick up the phone and I'm like, no, 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 no. She pays more for cable than I pay. And I'm not saying I'm here to shirk the system, but I want to be that voice of negotiation for people who don't feel confident to do it. And I don't want to do it for a fee. I want to do it because I want to give back to the community for which I've walked through and now participate in.
That's awesome. That's lovely. I, I let me know when you start that business because I have a few
Oh,
people we'll send to you for sure.
yeah. And the best part is, I don't even want to be paid. Feel good that I've accomplished something, that all these trials and tribulations and all these negotiating sessions that I've been in have actually taught me something that I can do something good with. And that's kind of the legacy that I want underneath the Heidi walk through life. Heidi saved money for people. Um,
Yeah.
but I do, I just, I want to be more than just in the events industry. I want to be a valuable part of it, not just in it. And that's kind of my goal, to just to give back. I've got a couple little mentees, and if I can save you steps and sanity, call me. Happy to help you. And if you don't like what I have to say, as I already said, not offended. It's okay.
Great. You were recently featured as a 2023 event industry woman to watch. Congratulations. It's obvious why you were featured and selected for this honor.
Thank
So,
you.
you just finished talking about what you want to do to increase your personal happiness in retirement. Like, do you think about leaving a legacy behind? Do you think about what success means to you as you leave your career behind? And, does obviously success is different to you now than it was in your like 20s, 30s, 40s. But how do you see like end of life as successful for you? Not to say you're at your end of life, but like, this is like, if you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to put my sort of hardcore working years behind me, what does the rest of my life look like? And how will I feel happy and fulfilled and successful in that way?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question, and I think about it a lot because, as I mentioned, I have my son Taylor. Taylor's my love. He was my 3-pound failure to thrive, amazing little creature that I didn't know what to do with. I was scared of him as he was probably scared of the world. And my goal has always been to give Taylor the best possible life there is. And let me tell you, Taylor's very functioning. He just falls between every crack and what have you. But my legacy is to continue to empower my kid to feel confident in life. Taylor has apraxia, which is the inability to talk. It's like dyslexics, where dyslexics read backwards. Apraxia is the mind and the mouth aren't in sync. It's all part of the nervous system.
Okay.
So his ability to speak is very difficult. And I find that very ironic because I just can't shut my mouth, right? And so
Like the universe gave you
oh
your
my God, is
part.
it not? Right. And so I've not worked, but I've wanted to empower Taylor to feel confident and to have that voice and to use it and to be the best he can be. Well, I really have overachieved that because my son tells me where to go all the time. Right now, I'm kidding. He has great confidence and he can walk into a room of 3,000 people and figure it out and
Right.
ask the way he needs to. And he has not allowed that to stop him. So for me, my greatest legacy is to continue to empower him because there is no other kids. We don't have any others. And so he's going to have to be able to do that someday by himself. So my greatest legacy is for Taylor to continue to be the strength that he has. I pull strength for him. I mean, I watch him on the soccer field, or I watch him here and I watch him there. And I'm thinking that guy has got more courage and more guts and more attitude than a lot of the people that I know. So my greatest legacy is to leave him empowered and capable of being okay without Keith and I.
That's great.
That's all I want in life. Professionally, I'd like to think that I changed the standards for women and that I help enable women to get a seat at the table. I'd like to think that I was able to give a voice to an industry that was considered something good for stay-at-home moms to do part-time, or people who didn't get a quote unquote real job, so they went into event planning. I'd like to be, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'd like to help contribute to that. Women are amazingly powerful. We've chosen to be in this space because we feel we can make a difference. It's a very difficult space to be in, the event space. It takes a great deal of intelligence, a great deal of tenacity, a
Yeah.
great deal of chutzpah. to be able to survive it. And I'd like to bring awareness outside of our industry that our industry should be considered a viable intellectual component of the techo world or whatever world, but we are equal in terms of abilities and intelligence of individuals.
I love that. That's really inspiring. I was literally taking notes as you were talking because that was all like really resonating. So thank you for sharing that.
I mean, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, we just that that seat and the ability to have the seat and not fight for the seat, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's time.
Yeah.
And I'd love that to be a legacy, like maybe, Heidi talked a little too much and she opened her mouth, but hey, I got here because of.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Well, I'm going to go ahead to my last question, which I'm
Yeah.
bummed about. I feel like I could talk to you all day long. I got to get out to Vegas very soon and hang out with you in real life.
Love
um,
it. Nobody ever comes to Vegas for fun. Everyone comes for work, and then I never see anyone.
yeah, I have actually been to Vegas twice for fun. And hopefully I will. I've been there twice for work as well. So hopefully,
See, but now you know me. So now, and girlfriend, I have hookups, right? So we can go
great.
shows and not have to pay.
Let's talk. Actually, the last time I went to Vegas was early 2019. The trip ended up being amazing, but it was like one of those things, everything went wrong. So the reason I was going is because I was going to watch Britney Spears during her residency. And my now husband was going to, unbeknownst to me, he was going to propose to me because we were going to take a side trip to the Grand Canyon. And so he was like, I'm going to propose to her while we're out there. About a week before the trip, Brittany canceled her entire residency, so she never played in Vegas. She hasn't played in Vegas again since then. And we were like, it's still going to be fun. We're still going to go. The ring never showed up. It got delivered actually about 2 weeks later to home, so he didn't get to propose to me. And Las Vegas experienced its first major snowfall in like 20 years, so the whole city shut down. It was
Yes.
freezing. Our trip to the Grand Canyon was postponed by 48 hours because it snowed like 52 inches or something
Yeah.
insane. They couldn't clear the highways fast enough. People were stranded. Like we were watching the news from our hotel room and we just couldn't believe it was. I mean, it was an experience. We have pictures of ourselves in snow in Las Vegas. And so even though everything else went wrong, like it's a fun story to tell. And who has pictures of themselves in a snowstorm in Las Vegas? Like it's pretty amazing.
And I actually think, oh my God, how lucky that you were here then, because I've been here 23 years. We've had snow twice. I never thought living in the desert we could get snow. I mean, but we're really high. And we were snowballing in the backyard. We were making snow things. I've got pictures. So your life was going crazy. We were just thinking it was the best day ever. And so, you know what? Yay. I'm thrilled that you were here to experience it, to help tell the story that it does snow in Vegas.
Yes.
Nothing that you had planned worked. But the odds of you being in Vegas during snow, you should have been betting downtown, girlfriend, because those they were not in your odds.
That's true. That's true. All right, I'm going to go ahead with my last question. What is the coolest event that you have been to, whether as an attendee or as a planner of the event?
Yeah, I saw that question and I really thought about it. That's a really difficult one because the glorious component of what we do is I've heard some amazing speakers, people I never would have been in the audience for, people whom I didn't even know existed. And I'd sit there and I would listen, and I learned so much. And I was so intrigued and so enlightened, whether it's personal stories or technology or this or that. So I really don't have one event, but what I have is a lot of personal experiences by great speakers who changed the way I thought about things, brought enlightenment into my life. I mean, I had the privilege of hearing Deepak speak once. And then I had the privilege of having, whether you like him or not, President Clinton. I mean, I've been in the audience of some fabulous, and then I've had some fabulous talent. I've heard Jewel. I hired Jewel. I hired Wayne Gretzky, who, let me just tell you, Wayne Gretzky, the man could be the most arrogant jerk there is, the nicest guy.
Oh,
Shaquille O'Neal could be the biggest jerk, literally figure the nicest guy. So you find that, so it would be the talent, having exposure to the talent, the speaker or the talent, and getting a sense behind the scenes of who these people are. That has probably been my greatest thing. I would never have got access to 90% of those people that I've seen or heard.
yeah, that's true. I am, despite the lack of sleep and the stomach aches,
Yeah,
this industry has brought me an extraordinary amount of unique experiences and people that I would never have had the
yep,
opportunity to touch in otherwise. And so, yeah,
yes,
I agree with you.
yes. You know, it's a lot of the behind the scenes. Like just real quick, I did a gig 2 years ago with Tim Cook. I mean, the
Oh,
Apple guy, right?
oh,
And I was in the green room with him. The nice guy. Who? I'm Heidi. When would I get in a green room with Tim Cook
right,
or any of the people for whom I've mentioned,
right.
right? Yes. I mean, they'll never remember my name. They'll never, but I remember that. And
Hmm.
so those have been my coolest moments. And
Yeah.
you know, and then at the end, seeing the work, the results of the heartache, the stomach aches and everything, that the rewarding component of it. And I don't care whether it's a big event or a small event, anytime you have fulfilled what your quest was, it's always gratifying.
Right.
Some are just more spectacular than others,
Yeah.
but I would say literally every event, I'm either a better person or I've lost a little bit more of my soul. But
Sometimes both.
right, but everything has absolutely transformed and changed me. So not one in particular. I'd say them all
Mhm.
in their own way.
Great. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Well, Heidi, as always, this has been wonderful. I hope that all of our listeners are also leaving this episode with a high from your energy. Um, for those who want to learn more about you and your work, where can they go to for more information?
Yeah. You know what? First of all, I actually give out my phone number. Okay. Please use it. Concept. I know it's 702 303 4549 Pacific. And email address is, well, I'm sure Dora will share it because it's super lengthy. It's h.jacobson@level5.theeventsgroup. So Dora will get that for you. Find me on LinkedIn. And if I can make a difference or answer a question or save you from heartache, it's an olive branch. I always say it's my olive branch to you. It's up to you to decide whether you want to take it or not. Okay.
Ugh, I love this. You're amazing. Thank you so
Definitely.
much, Heidi. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's been my pleasure. Thank you for asking. All right. I hope it was beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning into this podcast, for checking out this episode. Don't forget to go to meetingprotocol.org, where you can sign up for the newsletter that includes all of the links to our podcasts, a CMP tip of the month, and tons of resources for all things related to the events industry. Thanks, everybody.
See you in Vegas.